Hello up, teammates, and welcome to another episode of the Coach's Huddle. Tonight, we meet with Brandon Collier, a former NFL player who took his NFL career and his skills and took them to a different direction over in Europe. So the huddle goes out to international waters. So sit down with us as we meet with him and go over how his life has changed, what he's doing, and how he's made his own company and what we like to call tonight's episode as Second Down. Get your passports ready because tonight we go international. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome to another episode of the Coach's Huddle. Tonight, the huddle, we've got our passports out and we've traveled all the way to Europe. Tonight, we are speaking with Brandon Collier, the CEO. Listen, we got a CEO tonight, y'all. We taking out the place, man. The CEO of PPI, Premier Players International. But before we go into that, Brandon, how you doing tonight, man? How's Germany treating you out there, man? How's the schnitzel?
I'm doing great, man. It's like I said, it's morning time where I'm at right now. So like I said, man, we getting through everything with the COVID, just like everybody else. But overall, man, I'm happy to be in Germany. I mean, I think they got a pretty good infrastructure here. So just happy to be here and just living a dream.
Now, I just left Germany not too long ago. Now, one thing I do know about Germany, rules will be followed. So if there's some rules from COVID, I know they following. And if you ain't following, there's some old lady in the window looking, making sure that you are following those rules because she will call the polizei quickly.
Yeah. It's frustrating at times, but you gotta respect it. It's their culture, so they kind of police each other just because they got a pretty good thing what they're doing in their country. So
well, definitely, they're trying to keep everybody safe. This COVID thing, man. First off, man, my hearts and condolences go out to everybody who's going through this and the people who've lost loved ones through it. So it's definitely not something we want to take for granted. So big ups to Germany for what they're doing. Now, Mr. Collier, you've done some things that most people dream of doing. You started out, you went to UMass, and you reached the pinnacle. My man, you made it to the NFL. Take me to that point, man. How much work did it take for you? Because a lot of young men out there who say, man, I want to go to the league. I want to do that. How much work did it take for you to get there?
I mean, it sounds cliche, but I mean, just how it's kind of how everybody say if you dream about it and you put goals and aspirations to it, it can happen. I mean, like I said, I came from a tough background from Cleveland, Ohio, so I had a tough upbringing and grew up a single mom, had 5 brothers, all unfortunately going into high school, all 5 of my brothers went to the penitentiary. At pretty much one stretch, all of them is in there, just making bad decisions and stuff like that. So I kind of used them as an example of what I didn't want to be in terms of, in terms of going a different route and things like that. So I kind of tried to buckle down to school. I was on the kind of wrong path at the beginning. I mean, at one point I had straight F's going into high school, but then it clicked somehow. The next year I had straight A's. So it just happened that fast. Then in 10th grade I started playing football. I played football at 9 years old for about 3 years. I mean, I was always pretty good at it, athletic things like that. But I got kind of caught in the streets in the neighborhood and stopped playing from about 12 to around 15, 16 years old. And I got back into it. I think actually my junior year in high school, I started back playing, and it kind of go from there. I kind of forced my mom to move to a different neighborhood where kind of like a suburb neighborhood of our city, because I drove by there and they had the first AstroTurf that I ever seen. I said, okay, if I'm going to play, I want to play for this team, and kind of forced her to move there. So hats off to her for doing that. And after my junior year, I mean, it was kind of slow recruiting. The school was kind of small with recruiting. No one from that school probably in 15 years have gotten a scholarship. So after my senior season, I went on to go to a prep school with in Hudson because, coaches was liking me, but I didn't play enough football. So going to this school in another suburban school, probably 40 minutes from where I live at, I probably ended up with like 15 scholarships from this school, but it wasn't it wasn't as simple. You know what I mean? I had to do all the recruiting on my own. So it was another small school that didn't have many recruits. So, I mean, not trying to sound too old school, but I was waking up early, making videotapes and things like that and sending them out to schools. I mean, we didn't have the huddle where you send the links and stuff where they got it pretty easy today. We had to, I mean, literally, I used to wake up 2 hours before school just to make tapes and things like that and ship them off. And I mean, like I said, fortunately, it ended up working out where I had 15 scholarships, I believe. I mean, I had even bigger schools than UMass, but I kind of wanted to get away from where I live because I always stayed. I never really been out my side of my state until my school visits. So end up going to UMass, probably the best decision of my life in terms of, I mean, just football and socially, where I got friends there until today. And I was a 4-year starter there, team captain. I mean, had a great career. I mean, and my senior year of UMass, I mean, a lot of scouts was coming in asking about me. But unfortunately, I got hurt in my senior year and I didn't pass a physical. So kind of was off the radars of teams. And then after the draft went on, I didn't get selected. I kind of took a year off to rehab. And I mean, I knew teams were interested. So my agent was telling me if you get healthy, I mean, it's going to be teams that want you. So after the point of getting healthy and passing the physical, the Eagles, they was always interested in me out of college. So they called my agent and asked me, was I ready and things like that. Then of course, I said I passed the physical and kind of go from there. And I got signed a 3-year deal with the Eagles. But as you guys know, nothing guaranteed in the NFL. So I went to the Eagles, played in the preseason game. And I mean, one thing I almost regret about my situation is that, I mean, my goal and dream was to get to the NFL. So I felt like I got there and you know what I mean? It was the biggest accomplishment in my life. But you know what I mean, I always tell the younger guys right now, dream to be a Hall of Famer, dream to be a Pro Bowler or something, because you kind of set your mind different. So it's like, okay, if you set your mind to be a college player, once you get to college, it's kind of okay, I live my dream and I mean, what's next? So I mean, like I said, I got injured down there with Philadelphia. I end up, I mean, of course, I got paid for a year there, so I'm happy with that. And of course, that changed the resume for the rest of my life, and it helped me springboard to things that I'm doing now.
Now, let's backtrack just a little bit, because you mentioned some key things that I think a lot of young athletes and people need to hear. So let's go back to high school. You went to high school and you said, you know, you didn't necessarily get recruited out of your senior year. So you went to a smaller school. You know, a lot of people get this idea, oh, I need to go to this big 4-year university. I need to go to University of Miami. I need to go to Texas. I need to go to Alabama. Because if I go there, that's how it happens. You didn't take the traditional route. Coming out of high school, how did that attack your resiliency when you didn't get the offer from that big school and you had to go to the Hudsons and the smaller schools to get to where you need to go to? What was your mind frame in that? What did that take you mentally?
I mean, it was one of them things where I was just where I'm from. I was just happy to move, even if it was 40 minutes away. I was just happy to move out of from what my neighborhood was. I mean, it made me think like, man, like this is another opportunity to reach my goal. So I mean, with anything these days, you don't need to go to the Ohio States and Miamis and Michigans to go to the NFL to achieve. I mean, of course, they getting the most players, so your percentages is higher. But at the end of the day, if you work hard, wherever school you end up at, and this is still your goal, you can still reach there. I mean, there's plenty of kids that get drafted from the Division twos and 1AAs and small Division I schools every year. So I mean that's kind of what my mindset. I just need to get in somewhere and I'm going to make it happen.
Now, you did that by going to UMass, and you made another good point. You said you had offers to go to bigger schools. A lot of times we get enamored with the big name, but you chose a smaller school. And when you chose a smaller school, you said something that a lot of kids don't hear. 4-year starter at a Division I university. What made UMass that school, and how did you, in your own personal opinion, How did you make that decision to say, hey, I'm going to pass on these bigger names to go to this university?
So I had an offer from Cincinnati. Indiana came in late, Illinois, and a lot of other MAC schools. So, but they came in really kind of late. So with UMass, I mean, they made me as their #1 recruit. I mean, how they recruited me. They didn't recruit me with the recruiting coaches or position coach. They recruited me with their head coach. He's at DC at Michigan right now. That was kind of like a selling point for me, and all the other schools were in a 2 to 3 hour radius of home. I kind of wanted to get away. As I told you, I had 5 brothers that just went to the prison. I wanted to get far away and kind of do my own thing and you know what I mean, create something on my own. So that was kind of a big reason for me, and the chance of playing early, and that's what happened. And I mean, I worked really hard going into it, but I was better than a lot of guys on that team already as a freshman. So you know, I made a name for myself right away. You know, I mean, mainly because I was so hungry, man. Like you know, I mean, people that's going to Ohio State and Alabama, they probably had the same hunger as me. And people going to UMass, not everybody had that same type of hunger because they didn't come from the same environments as me. So I kind of stood out at an early stage, and you know what I mean, I almost got kicked off the team because I was a little too violent in terms of my play, because I was playing for something that, you know what I mean, most people there wasn't playing for. You know what I mean, I was playing to take my family out of the situation. It was something that, you know what I mean, I'm proud of to today.
You know, I always say that one thing with a lot of young people, when you have people who come from the situation like you came from, that's a hunger that you can't just put in anyone, because that type of dog, you don't grow that dog. The wild dog, you can't grow a wild dog. Some of these kids that come from these situations, and they you know, that's like the Kardashian dog. It lives in the house and it got all, you know, it's pampered and it gets like little shoes, but them dogs that come from your situation, that type of drive to get out is not something that everybody has. Now, go to UMass, you start for 4 years. Draft day comes. This is supposed to be the night, man. This is supposed to be, you know, you sitting at home, you don't order all them chicken wings, you know what I'm saying? I mean, everybody there, everybody ready. The name doesn't get called. Now, I know you had an injury, so typically you say, okay, well, it didn't happen because I got an injury, but still in the back of your mind.
Yeah, for sure. I was still
going to get drafted.
Yeah, 100%. I was still literally, it was a dark time. I mean, it was like, so that, I mean, I'm glad you asked that question, because it was a real dark time, man, and probably the darkest time of my life at one point, because you know what I mean, like everybody back home, they don't understand the process. They just think, okay, you play football, you know, you outside, you in Massachusetts, you gonna get drafted. I know you get drafted somewhere. You know what I mean? Not understanding all what goes into it. You know what I mean? And it was kind of I wouldn't even say an embarrassing thing, but it was kind of a dark side where, man, I was ashamed to go back home and around people, because the questions was gonna be asked, man, what happened? Because I'm dealing with, you know what I'm saying? I'm from the hood, man. I'm dealing with neighborhood dudes that, you know what I mean, they looked at me as, oh damn, this the pride and joy. He made it out, so he's coming back with the shit. Like, you know what I mean? It's kind of like almost a fail, because they're not looking at the education thing of stuff. They almost looking at, man, if you ain't making it football, you kind of fail. So it was, man, like I said, it was a dark 3 days from the whole draft period. Like, man, it was a depressing standpoint. I could just tell you that. And after that, and then my mom moved back to like probably the roughest area in Cleveland, man. And you know, man, I was at a point I ain't really had nowhere to go. So after that, I went back to. I stayed with her for about 2 months. Now, I mean, I was working out inside, never came outside because the depression of it was so high, man, that I didn't even know what to do. I mean, of course, I had an education, but man,
that didn't mean nothing to you.
That ain't about to help. That ain't about to help anybody at that moment. You know what I mean? The education helps somebody 10, 15 years down, maybe 10 years down the line, you can help your family, but you know what I mean? You're not about to help anybody right now with the diploma. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So that's just my mindset. Then it wasn't just about me, man. If it was just about me, I'd have been okay with it. You know what I mean? But I had brothers,
you had a family dependent on you, and you felt like you literally let them down. You felt like
man.
you felt as if that was your penitentiary, was to come back home and not be the NFL star that you thought that you would want to be.
It was hard, man. Like I said, it was, to this day, I'm just thinking back. I ain't thought about it in years, but I'm thinking back like, man, this was a dark time, man. And you kind of see how people change. People don't pick up the. I mean, like I said, before that draft day, everybody picked up the phone, hype. But you see, after that went past, nobody pick up the phone the same. It really changed, man. I could tell you that. And man, fortunately, like I said, I'm a believer in the Most High God. So I really got on my knees in tears, like, man, what's next? Like, you know, I mean, this is what I worked all my life for. What's next? What I'm gonna do? And man, I would say after about 2 months of grieving from that, man, I kind of like found myself like, I ain't gonna give up on my dream, knowing, you know, I mean, it's still right there. And I kind of put my head down, started working it. You know, I mean, it eventually worked out.
What was the lifeline that gave you hope to say, you know what, I'm going to keep going?
This came into like the most like the depression times of I'm scared to even look at preseason games. I'm looking, then I finally look. I mean, I know we had about 10 kids, 10 guys, and we had a guy get drafted second round from our team. We had about 10 guys in camp. But I'm not keeping up with anything. I just happen to look at one preseason game, and it's the Jets and Giants. And you mean one of my good friends, the teammate of mine, Victor Cruz, that he was an undrafted free agent. Nobody really wanted him. He got picked up by the Giants because he was a local guy. And shit, this game, he was a star after this game, man. He went on to score 3 touchdowns, and I mean, the rest is history, man. But like I said, and I would say at that point, watching that, you know what I mean, I was ecstatically happy, but you know what I mean, also inside, like, man, I play right next to him, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying, he knows what I could do. We all, you know what I'm saying, like, these guys looked up to me as you know what I'm saying, as players. Okay, we want to play. I'm looking up to Brandon. I'm like, hey, things like that. And I'm like, wow, you know what I mean? That kind of, after watching that, it was kind of like, man, I know I can do the same. I know I can do the same thing he can do in some way. So I just started working and working, and kind of like the crazy part is, right? So how it kind of happened, how I got picked up is, of course, I was working out, working hard, man. I was getting back into my routine, and most importantly, man, I got back with my faith and started believing. So it might sound crazy to people, man, but man, it was really one day where, man, I was on the brinks of, man, like I probably had $20 to my name, man, if that. You know what I mean? Where I was on, so I got on my knees, man, and prayed to the Most High, and literally the next day, I mean, it might sound fabricated, but literally the very, very next day, man, my agent called me and said, hey, man, you need to get on a flight to Philly tomorrow. The Eagles, they liked you out of college. They need a defensive lineman. They want to sign you. So, man, I flew up there, worked out. They signed me, man. It was like literally, man, the best, probably the best day of my life, man, because, you know, I mean, this is the time they was calling themselves the dream team. They had all the expectations behind them, man. And you know, of course, I mean, I couldn't be a fan, but shit, Mike Vick walking past me, man, like it was like a surreal moment. And then I got on the practice field, man. The craziest thing is, of course, I was a little nervous, man, but honestly, they had a first round pick at O-line, and they lined me up against him. I beat him 3 straight times. Like, I mean, my hunger was something totally different than
You were starving.
Any of theirs, man. So this, like I said, this guy first round pick with $15 million guaranteed. I'm out there, so I'm killing them. So I just see reporters looking like, who this kid? And the coach like, man, you let their O-line coach like, you letting the damn undrafted free agent kick you behind, and man, so I'm on cloud 9. Like I had 2 sacks on Mike Vick. I mean, I ain't tackle him, but I beat my guy and had 2 sacks on him. So literally, after the first practice, we went to watch the film, like the whole defense, and man, the coaches, players praising me, like, man. Then right next practice, same thing, dominating. So right after the next practice, not the D-line coach, but the assistant D-line coach, like, man, hey, come here, I want to talk to you. He's like, man, the coaches love you. Just keep doing what you're doing, man. You're gonna make this team. So it was literally right before the preseason game, man. I don't know what happened, man. On the block, then the damn linebacker drove his lineman into my damn leg and broke my leg, man. So like I said, honestly, man, I can be honest with you, man. That wasn't the darkest time in my life. So I wasn't even, like, I was disappointed and sad, man. But honestly, man, I kind of, after that, even when I was carted off, man, in my head man, I'm like, I done been through way worse time than we are right now, man. So whatever happens after this, I'm good with.
You know, I think part of that was you got a chance to get to your mountaintop.
Right.
When you got there on the field, and not only did you get there, you got a chance to see and prove to yourself, like, not only am I here, damn it, I'm supposed to be here. I'm out here doing what I'm supposed to do. And there was nothing you can do to stop that injury. Of course, there's some disappointment. Of course, there's some despair. But what else do you do in that situation?